For a very long time, I didn't speak very much because society and the world around me and my own understandings of myself and my mind had taught me that my voice wasn't important, that I wasn't important. I had a prayer journal and I would write to God in it almost every single night, begging him to make me normal, to make me fit in. And by the time I was 12, I knew that wasn't going to happen. A couple of years ago, I started blogging to try and find other people that were like me. I never imagined that not only would I find millions of other people like me, but that my entire life would change more than I ever imagined. And I've got a very big imagination. Welcome to my channel. Here we go. If no one else is going to discuss it, I will. I'm 20 years old and meltdowns are still a part of my life. There, I said it. If we had actual autistic representation growing up, my peers would have understood me better. My teachers would have understood me better. My doctors would have understood me better. I would have understood me better.
And the Audience Choice Award for Best Actress goes to Chloe Hayden.
I could never have imagined that she would have the voice that she has now when she was a little girl and she was too terrified to even speak.
Hello, I have got a very crazy, busy, hectic, what the heck day today, so come with me.
Every day is a bit like Christmas. It's always wake up, we're going out, all right, I'll pop my glitter on. I want to enjoy life. And I think that's pretty hard to come by.
Now I realize just how important it is for voices like mine to be heard.
Change is made by being different, and it is time that those that are different see how incredible they are. Who you are is exactly who you are supposed to be. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Chloe Hayden. I am an actress, I'm an author, I'm an advocate, and I'm also autistic and ADHD, all the A's.
I left with my Ford Futura from Hyatt all the way to Inverleigh. It's around an hour and 20-minute trip.
We were in lockdown. We had one of the most harsh lockdowns in the world, and we weren't even allowed to leave our house.
Chloe and I matched on a dating app, which neither of us were really accustomed to using. As I was giving up, just opened the radius up to infinity to just kind of see what happened. The very next day, there she was.
Dylan was the first person I matched with, and I was equal parts terrified and excited. I thought I was going to vomit in my mouth everywhere.
They'd been chatting online without me knowing for, I think, a couple of months at this stage. And, she said he's driving down here, and part of me went into protective mum mode, like, okay, he's either not going to turn up and he's been catfishing her, or he's probably a serial killer, or, some kind of really crazy person.
So I'm almost at the house. My legs are starting to go to jelly. My hands are getting a bit clammy. I see her mum, I'm like, oh, this is real. This is happening.
I was sort of hanging around the front doing a bit of gardening, accidentally on purpose. And in drives Dylan.
And my life just changed past that point after I passed that gate.
Straight away, I just looked at him and went, he is a beautiful human being.
How you doing?
Watching them connect for the first time, I was like, it's going to be okay.
Dig in, guys.
Thank you. The Hayden household is a bit crazy at the best of times. It's very dynamic.
I'm the eldest in my family. The second in line is my sister Gemma. Next in line is Hunter. He is 18. After Hunter is Sue. Sue is 14, and we adopted him from Taiwan when he was 6. And then is our youngest, Xiaofen, who is 10, who was also adopted from Taiwan when she was also 6. Dylan's first interaction with our family was getting tripped over by my dog, meeting my brother who was practically naked, and then being locked in Gemma's room, squeezing her boyfriend's hand while she was piercing her boyfriend's ears with like a rusty, pin.
It was a bit of a wild day, and it's just been like that the whole time. I never once felt like I was an intruder or that I had to leave even.
And he never left. He literally, I think he went home for a day and then came back, and he's been captive here ever since. I am a disabled person, and I do have two quite contradictory parts of my mind. I'm autistic and I'm ADHD. So autism for me means that I love routines and that I love structure and that I need both of these things in order to function. ADHD means that I'm not gonna do either of those things. I think looking back, pretty much every single thing I did was a very telltale sign that I was autistic.
She could never wear clothing with the tag on. I had to cut every single tag off. Even as a young baby, if I'd even left a tiny bit of stitching on there, it would still drive her insane. She would be screaming and screaming until I could remove it properly.
And the only food I would eat was white, bland food that was less than 2 ingredients. If you added a third food to the equation, it wasn't going in my mouth.
At the time, we just sort of put it down to it's just Chloe. And Chloe's too smart to play. Chloe's too smart to read basic board books that was straight to the facts about sharks. And we just said, well, of course, she's a genius.
Welcome to this lovely event, you guys. It's so nice to see so many amazing people here. It's super exciting. So cool.
I started telling my story by blogging and by blogging under a code name. And I was doing it because I was a terrified young kid who had never seen myself anywhere and was screaming to the universe for other people. And when those people responded back to me, then I kind of came to the conclusion that I'm allowed to exist as a wholeheartedly neurodivergent person and be proud of it and be comfortable in it. So I guess putting my name to my story now, I've realized that now I'm actually safe to do so.
Yeah.
Woo!
Chloe always hated school from her very first day of prep. School to her was just like hell. It got worse when we entered high school. Her mental health was really deteriorating. That was around the time that people started to say there's something else going on. She was at school crying in the bathrooms all day, every day, not eating, still getting bullied relentlessly. And her psychologist just looked at me and said, pull her out of school. You either pull your child out of school or you're not going to have a child.
Something that occurred to me as I was reading your book and figuring out how traumatic school was for you, I feel comfortable saying it was traumatic. Heartbreak High obviously takes place in a high school.
In a school.
How was that for you?
I had a panic attack on my first day because the school that we were filming on is a working school, and we were filming it on a school day with students in the school. And I was going into school at 7 o'clock in the morning with a backpack on, and I heard the school bell ring, and then the principal call someone into the office, and I started panicking.
Scene 48, erotic erect emus, take 1.
I've always loved acting. It's always been, ironically, where I felt the most myself. Oh, you don't stress me out. But also something that I have been told that I was never able to do as a career.
You couldn't even
I'm
look at me.
autistic, okay?
Right.
Yeah, I'm autistic. I have autism, whatever you want to say.
No, but how did I not know this?
I'm pretty good at masking, putting on a face, pretending most of the time.
Yeah, but you don't... you're not Like, I've met autistic people,
Okay.
and you're like really emotionally intelligent.
Yeah.
And so I just thought,
Okay, see ya. Being able to play Quinni is one of the best, most important, most impactful things that I've ever done. And it's because in the books, both fiction and non-fiction that I ingested, I never saw anyone like me. Because there wasn't anyone like me.
Chloe helping to develop that character, I think it was actually quite cathartic and healing for her in a lot of ways. Just sort of showed me what it could have been like had she had some friends, you know, around.
Yeah. What is this shit?
Oh, you don't like vaginas?
No, I like vaginas.
Right, okay. Well, you clearly don't know very much about them because if you have a look, first one here, if you have a look here, see most vaginas actually have very pronounced flaps or labia, and some of them are even quite lopsided, which I'm assuming is where you got the entire laser kebab thing from. But it's very common, it's very, very normal. You probably wouldn't know because it's actually not really taught in public schools very much. Which I think is actually very
I've seen heaps of vaginas. Thanks.
Okay. I just assumed on account of the fact that you were lying about seeing mine, that you were also lying about seeing others too. If I had Quinni, I might have been better off. And if I had Quinni, I wouldn't have felt like I wasn't supposed to exist. And I've already had quite literally thousands of messages of young people telling me that because of Quinni, they now realise that who they are is who they're supposed to be.
I grew up as the weird, naughty kid who didn't want to do shit.
Hey, we got it!
And didn't want to listen. So once I got diagnosed, I had a full mental, epiphany, I was having an existential crisis.
Beautiful.
And then can I grab one, giving you a hug?
Yes, of course.
When I found Chloe and then found Quinni, I was like, okay, we're done with, Quinni's life. I can live the rest of my life and be happy.
The other thing that is really important is we're not all Sheldon Cooper, or Rain Man, or Gilbert Grape, or whatever.
And I think then they see her standing up there with her powerful voice and the success that she's had, not just in life, but with her own mental health and her career and her relationship and all of the things that we probably doubted that she'd be able to have. I think it gives them hope that they too can have the same positive outcome, that it doesn't have to be what they thought that it was going to be.
What's the best advice for interabled relationships, both platonic and romantic?
Oh, that's such a good question.
I'm so interested in this question too.
The most important thing that I've discovered is, first of all, finding someone who loves you for all that you are. Not in spite of being autistic or in spite of being disabled, but that wholeheartedly embraces every single aspect of you. And if they don't love every single part of you and their love is conditional, you do not want that person anyway.
Drop them like a hot potato.
So true, Queen. Growing up, I had an understanding that I didn't want to grow up because the things that I shouldn't have experienced as a child made me fearful of what I thought I would have to experience as an adult.
Unbeknownst to us, she was sexually abused by a family friend at the age of 7, and it took her about 6 weeks to actually come out and tell me what had happened. It was the darkest, most awful time of our life, and I think her life. We had the added layer of Chloe being undiagnosed autistic and having had this event and being unable to verbalise and discuss and disclose what had happened. And she's got PTSD, of course she's getting migraines and anxiety, and it became really difficult then to determine, what was bullying, what was autism, what was PTSD. And it took us, I think, that much longer to get a diagnosis. And so it was horrendous. So to protect myself, I simply said, I'm gonna make sure I never get into anything that could put me in a position of that vulnerability again. I'm never dating anyone, I'm never having a partner, I'm never getting into a relationship, and I'm certainly never having kids.
Intimacy was kind of tricky at the start. Even having a hug or an embrace was kind of treading on thin ice for a while there. Took a really slow approach to make her feel more comfortable and safe through that.
Jill is a very accepting, beautiful human being. In some ways, it shouldn't have come as a surprise that I was able to take my mask off around him and know that I was safe.
I'm going on now. Keith?
Good luck.
Thank you.
You want to take the mic out and hold it in your hand, that's okay.
Okay, cool.
I'll be honest, there was times where I actually thought we weren't going to make it, that Chloe wouldn't come through. And to see her thriving like she is now and surviving and being able to share her journey is the most important part of what she's doing.
I try to make sure that I am very open and vulnerable. And a big part of that is talking about the beauty of being autistic and is talking about how magical our minds are.
Hello, everyone. Growing up, I have always been entranced with the idea of fairy tales, a world in which the lead is considered a hero because of their differences rather than villainized and ostracized because of them, and where happily ever afters are a given rather than just a hopeful yearning.
I think it's so important for other families that are still in the thick of either waiting for a diagnosis or an early diagnosis, for people to hear the real and the raw and not just see the amazing, incredible, successful Chloe, but to hear how dark that journey was.
Going to high school was a whole new ballgame. It wasn't just, that's Chloe and she's a bit weird. It was letters being put in my locker telling me to kill myself, and that same locker being broken into, my books stolen and my art books thrown all over. It was being pushed into the shallow end of the pool during school sports day, my teeth being cracked out of my head, these 2 teeth are fake, and my teachers telling me that it was my fault for being such an easy target.
I think when I was at such a low point in my life, I was also masking so highly that I wasn't letting myself cop onto the fact of just how awful it actually was at the time. And I was having seizures constantly. I had a very, very severe eating disorder. I hated myself. And I wasn't expecting to get through the end of the year.
It's so hard for girls to get an autism diagnosis because I think we're still very much stuck on the male model of autism. Girls are also fantastic at masking and mimicking, especially their peers, and that's certainly what Chloe was doing. They sit there and they watch and they work out what other people are doing and they start to do it, whereas boys tend to be less inclined to do that. So you'll often hear Chloe and myself talking about the day that we finally got a definitive diagnosis that Chloe was autistic. I can distinctly remember like it was yesterday, Chloe holding my hand, me with a big encyclopedia of autism under one arm, and I cried and cried because the psychologist had just said to me, oh, your daughter's autistic. I felt like a total failure as a parent, feeling just so bad that there's this child who I love more than anything in the world, that she's my firstborn child, and there's been a diagnosis, there's a word for what she's been like her whole life, and it's been missed.
Everyone say, Selfie King! Selfie King! Well done. Thanks, guys.
When I started blogging 7 years ago, I did it because I was desperate to find a community, and I have found the most incredible, wonderful community that I am so incredibly lucky to have. And every time I do a book signing or a conference or a seminar and I get to meet them, it is the most wonderful interaction.
Oh my God, it's actually going to be underwater.
Yeah,
That's so cute.
Oh, it's so lovely to meet you.
How do you do your space runs?
I'm so glad you asked that question because that was the most important question of the whole day.
Chloe always says, I just want to be the person to these people that I wish that I had and that I never had.
Accept help, you're also just who you are.
One of the most common comments that we get from people who do see this loud, bright, non-stop energetic Chloe is that my child's not like that. Is she really autistic? They don't see the preparation that goes in beforehand, and they also don't see the downtime.
After a day like today, we have a rule that everyone stays away from Chloe.
It can take 1, 2, 3, 4 days to decompress after an event like that.
An autistic person recovering after something really big and stressful, it is like a ghost. They're still themselves, they look like themselves, but they're kind of not all there.
For me, it means that all of my senses have peaked and my body and my mind have ingested far too much information. Like, imagine that you're at a rock concert right next to the speakers and you haven't eaten anything or drank anything and you've also been running a marathon before you went to the concert. That's kind of like what my life is like every single day.
I've seen Chloe where it's been a couple of weeks. It can take a long time to kind of rejuvenate and get back to the point where they're comfortable to go outside again and can take on, this mask that they have to put on for society.
When I was younger, I didn't understand burnout and I didn't understand sensory overload and I didn't understand why my mind acted like this and why my mind needed this. Go and jump on the camera. And I didn't give myself the respect and the grace to understand that I do need to step back sometimes and it's okay to step back sometimes.
Hello.
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 How are you doing?
Hi. Good. Hi.
Hey, Tim.
Violet. I got a message from Chloe on Instagram and told me a lot about how Matilda affected her and how she feels about my work and stuff.
Tim Minchin is one of my favourite human beings that has ever walked this earth.
Got different earrings on.
I do have different. I truly think that he is like a reincarnation of Mozart. I think he is incredible.
All your 75 pets, they're at your folks' place. They're not going to come with you to your new place.
When I was, say, like 20, I wrote him a very long, very over-emotional Instagram post about how much Matilda, the musical, had impacted my life because it was the first time I had ever seen a character that I could really, really relate to.
And then sometime later, Chloe appeared as this, actor who I read about that was going to be in this show. And Violet, completely separately, had found Chloe and started following her on Instagram and was a massive fan.
That was around the same time that I was reflecting on myself and starting to think I might be on the spectrum.
Even though we operate differently.
I was watching all her videos.
Non-verbal cues can be really, really difficult for us. Crazy big obsession. Anyway.
And going, I recognize a lot of this in myself.
Roughly 40% of autistic girls have an anxiety disorder compared to 15% of neurotypical people.
I was also struggling with my mental health and it was cool to see someone that was happy and thriving.
There is nothing wrong with your brain. There is nothing wrong with the way that you are. It is perfect.
With all these same sort of character traits as I have.
So there was this beautiful sort of circularity and she's this unbelievable burst of colour in our lives, really.
I've actually got a whole hair and makeup team waiting at the back.
It's an interesting time to be a kid with any neuro quirks, as we say in this household.
Yeah, it's a great show.
It's pretty sick.
And the docs are right.
And Chloe's a part of that time. And a version of how positive it can be is how Chloe presents in the world.
Centennial.
How she just allows other people to let it fly a bit.
There's a lot of really exciting things happening this year. I'm opening a whole new chapter of my life again. I feel like the chapters are becoming extremely short and there's a lot more chapters now than there used to be. I bought a house and we're moving into that. What the heck? Everyone always told me that I would be living at home for the rest of my life.
We're going to be in our own place, making our own stories and decorating the way we like it.
Just a
What's
big,
that?
like dining room-ish?
Oh, dining room,
area?
I was really happy that I met Chloe at the time in our lives when we did, because it meant she knows for sure that I love her for her and I'm not interested in the fame or any of that. She doesn't have to have that doubt that I think a lot of famous people must have when they're trying to have relationships after they've made it.
Put him in. Go again.
I'm getting married next year. There's so many absolutely incredible, amazing, bizarre things that are happening in these next few chapters, which I never expected to be happening.
I spent my whole life wishing that Peter Pan would come for me. But now I've realised I don't need to go to a land of pirates and pixies and mermaids to have my own happily ever after exactly where I am with my exact fairy tale that I have.
Which is ever so slightly terrifying, but also ever so not slightly, extremely very cool.